Hey, welcome to Q&A, where you ask your questions on faith and life, and I do my best to give a biblical perspective. Hey, we got a question that I have never contemplated before. And maybe you have, and all power to you, but I'm going to jump in and give it some thought. So here we go. I know this sounds silly, but I'm genuinely wondering if there's a way I can get my dog to have a relationship with God. She loves worship music. Yeah, it's not something I've ever thought about, although to be fair, it's not a new topic. I remember reading about Martin Luther believed that based on Acts 3:21, which talks about the restoration of all things, that therefore animals would be in heaven. But yeah, if this is your question or you've wondered about these things, I can understand why, because pets do hold a special place in our hearts, and we do want to, we like the thought of them being with us in all eternity. In fact, it's a sign of faith in some ways. Proverbs 12 verse 10, I think it is, talks about how the righteous care for their animals and livestock. So yeah, I totally get it if this is your question. But when it comes to pets in heaven in the Bible, we don't really see a lot. It doesn't really talk about much in that regard, although certainly based on Acts 3:21, the restoration of all things, and certainly Revelation 21 with the new heaven and the new earth, I don't see any reason why there wouldn't be animals in heaven. We talk about the lion and the lamb, and I see no reason why our pets wouldn't be in heaven also. So it's not an entirely silly question. But in regards to your specific question, can you get your dog into a relationship with God? I'd want to say the short answer is no, because to do that, two things would have to happen. One is that you have to be able to communicate the gospel to your dog in biblical terms. And you just can't do that. I know we'd like to think we can, but we can't. They're not, their ability to rationalize, conceptualize and all that is different from ours. Which is the second issue, is that your dog has to be capable of a rational response to God. And when you share the gospel, there's no question that animals have a soul, but it's just not the same as ours. And that's why I don't think they can respond in the same way that you and I respond to the gospel. The reason I say that I think their soul is different is that in Genesis, animals are formed by his word, not by his breath. So, for example, in Genesis 1:27, let me bring it up here. It says here, then God said, let the earth produce every sort of animal, each producing offspring of the same kind, livestock, small animals that scurry along the ground, and wild animals. And this is what happened. But then we read in Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, let me just bring it up here, that when he made animals, humans, he not only made us in his image, but it was his breath that gave us existence, that gave us life, not just his word in the case of with animals. So we read in verse 7, chapter 2, the Lord formed the man from the dust of the ground. He breathed the breath of life into the man's nostrils, and the man became a living person. So we're created differently, and I think that's reflected in our soul. Our soul connects with God in ways that an animal can be aware. It can respond to the presence of God. It responds to the presence of evil, responds to shifts, and you hear them responding in earthquake before earthquakes come and all that. So they're sentient beings, they're sensitive, but their soul is not created in the same way that yours and mine was for an eternal relationship to respond to the gospel. So no, I don't think you can get your dog to have a relationship with God in the way that your question presupposes, a saving relationship. But I think that animals are going to be in heaven. So if your animal is clearly precious to you and you love it, which is great, I wouldn't be worried about whether it will be in heaven or not. I think the Bible doesn't say, but it does say that there will be a restoration of all things. So I would hold on to that promise. So yeah, love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hey, but if you've got a question on faith and life, you can ask it on slido.com. Use the hashtag ALC23. Would love to hear from you. But that's it for now. Until next time, God bless.